Welcome back, everyone. I appreciate you stopping by to watch another video. Today, I have some recent pickups that I wanted to share with you. Some of this stuff I've gotten over the last month or so, last 30 days. I purchased a lot overseas, and so it takes a little bit of time for it to get here, but I've let a few things pile up, and I wanted to share them with you. First up, I picked up a postcard of Colonel Cody, also known as Buffalo Bill. I believe this postcard is potentially from between 1905 and 1910. I know a lot of people that collect like the Allen and Ginter set, you can get a Buffalo Bill card in there, but that's from 1888, where this is a little bit more recent, but still a very cool image. And the back of it is just a blank back, so it's never been mailed, which is, something I typically try to look for whenever I buy postcards. And it's kind of tricky to date this one, but I'm trying to do some research, and some kind of research explains that it depends on where the stamp placement is at and the amount that the stamp is for. Plus, there's this dividing line for the address and the message. That actually was started in a specific year as well. But I'm trying to pinpoint something for this so I can send it off to SGC to be graded. I just think it's a really awesome image. Next up, I have a trade card, and it's probably one of the earliest representations of the Statue of Liberty. So this is a Pratt's Astor Oil trade card, and down at the bottom, let me see if I can get this to focus, it says copyright by Root and Tinker 1883. And if you know when the Statue of Liberty was actually displayed, it was actually a few years after that. So this is probably the earliest known representation that was distributed on the Statue of Liberty. And the back of it is really clean. This is actually a really nice example of this card. You can find this one out there, but it's usually got paper loss on the back or some dinged up corners and some creases. But the fun thing on this is this caption right here that says, "The picture upon the reverse of this card is not a fancy sketch, but an accurate representation of the statue and its pedestal." So they had it looking like this prior to it actually being displayed or built. So I just thought that was a really neat card and a cool piece of history there to have an early representation of the Statue of Liberty. Next up, I picked up what is referred to as a Reward of Merit card. Dating on this is kind of iffy as well. I believe it's anywhere between probably 1850 and 1880, just judging off other ones of these that I've found. But you can usually find these out there for pretty reasonable prices. I just liked the representation of George Washington on here. And so this is not actually a color print of this. This was hand colored by somebody. So this is typically black and white, but you had people that would fill in color on these. So they've given it their own little touch to it, and I actually really like the coloring that they did on this one. I think it's really cool. But these were typically given to, I would say, students in school. If they had good behavior or good attendance, they would receive one of these from like their teachers or something. And this presented to, you can't really tell who was here. This is kind of erased or scratched out. Some paper loss there, but you can still kind of see a name handwritten down here from who this person would have received it from. But these are blank back, and like I said, you can still find these out there for a pretty reasonable price. But I was happy to add this. Anything you can add from mid-19th century is pretty awesome. Next, I have the 1950 Liebig, and this is a set of 6 cards. I have the other ones here, but the one I was primarily after was this baseball version. It's been widely accepted that they've tried representing Ted Williams in this card. You can see the guy's batting left-handed there, which is what Ted did, but he's clearly standing in the wrong box, so I don't think Ted typically batted left-handed from a right-hander's box. But it's still a really cool card to have and add. You can see the corners on this are really nice, but there is just a slight crease. It's not heavy, but right there along this one. But all other corners are just fantastic on this. And the back is all in Italian. So it is a foreign card, but it just kind of goes along with my trade cards that I like that have a baseball-related topic to them. So I'm happy to add that. The other cards that were in this set, I'll just show you real quick. It's a 6-card set. You can see I obviously don't care as much about these, even though they are still really cool. I don't even have them in soft sleeves. But you have a cricket version, you have a soccer version, polo, skiing, being pulled by horses, which I've never seen that before, and an exercise card. So just an interesting little set. The baseball one is the more desirable one. Next up, going along with the trade card theme, for me at least, I picked these up. So these are interesting. They're kind of not technically a baseball trade card, but because there is a bat leaning against the tree, it has been designated with that title being a baseball trade card. So you can see the graphic on this is super clear, super clean, and very cool. This is late 1800s. I don't have a specific date on it, but you can see it's just a couple of boys having a good time here. Got another buddy running in and the other one cheering them on here. But what's really interesting about this is I have 2 examples of this that I've gotten now, and both of them are really nice. And you can find this card out there, but it's typically creased or, you know, some other issues like most of these cards, or some paper loss. But there are some differences, and you can see, let me see if I can get this out far enough so you can see them both a little at the same time. You can see this one on the bottom has a Wilson Spice Company, and it says Midsummer Greetings. So it was widely thought that Wilson Spice was the only one that used this card, and you can see that this one does not have that. And in researching this, I found that this is actually pretty rare for the back of this. So the one that doesn't have the Wilson Spice on the top is actually for Belladonna Plasters. And this back for Lion Coffee, which is Wilson Spice's coffee, they're out of Toledo, Ohio. But that's your standard back that you see on this. So the second I saw this one and realized that it had a different back on it, I had to snag it right away. You know, once again, the front looks the same, but the backs are different. And one other variation is this one on the bottom is actually embossed. And you can't tell, you can't pick that up in the picture, but this is embossed. You can kind of feel it if you would run your finger over it. And this one's not. This is a smooth surface here. So I don't know what the reasoning for the variation would be, or if they would have been released in different years. But you can see that they were done by the Buford Lithographic Company, which was a very, very popular printing company in the 1800s. And this copy actually has this little 901 designation down in the corner, whereas this one still says Buford over here, but it doesn't have the 901. So I need to dig a little deeper on some info on these, which is the fun part, and try to figure out what the reasoning for the variations and if Wilson Spice was the exclusive for this particular card, and if this 901 may be designated use for other companies. But there's that. Next up, I have a Ogden's Guinea Gold. This is a Napoleon card. This is actually a really tough card to find. And when I found this, it was in beautiful condition. You can see not a lot of chipping around the corners, nice centering. And the edges just like look really good on this. And I actually since I buy a lot of obscure things, I usually have to do some research initially before my submission so I can remember what the card is. So I usually put sticky notes on the back so I can remember when I do my submission. But it is a blank back. There's nothing on there, but just the quality of this card is amazing. So I was really happy to get that and add a Napoleon card. Next up, this is a famous jockey from the United States. His name is Todd Sloan. I have a handful of Todd Sloan cards, and this one was a recent purchase along with the bigger version. So Ogden's has their small size that's pretty standard to see, but then they also have these larger copies as well. So I wanted to pick each of those up whenever I found them. Todd Sloan was a really early 20th century jockey that was pretty good. So maybe I'll do another video on Todd Sloan sometime, or even a jockey video, because I have a couple other jockeys that we could throw in on this. But these are both blank back. This one, I believe, could be designated 1899 or 1900. Not 100% sure. I need to dig a little on these. And this one, oh, yeah, they're both, actually, I have listed it the same thing, but this one's called a base M, which is the bigger card. They're probably, you know, anywhere between 1900 and 1902, but it's kind of hard to figure those out sometimes, but we'll figure it out. Next up is a 1910 WHO and Wills Wright Brothers card. This is actually a pretty cool card, fairly common with this back to it. So there are variations of the back for this card, and you find this one the most. This was from the aviation set, and what you can find is you can actually find ones that have a brand that says Capstan on the back or Vice Regal, and there was actually one other brand, and I forgot to look that up before I started doing this, but it's something like Havelock. But those are a little bit more difficult to find. This is the most common. Still a really cool card. I like finding some early aviation stuff that's at least affordable. I'm not gonna break the bank on it or anything. Next up, I have these auto driver cards. I believe these are from 1911. I forget right offhand, but they are referred to as the auto driver set, and I believe they were T36s. They have a Hassan back, but these are actually really difficult cards to find. Not many of them have been graded before, and it's hard to find them in nice condition. You can see this one's actually got a little tear through it, and this one does have creasing. If I hit the right light, you can see it. But the quality overall, after I've looked at some of these things in the past, this is actually pretty good, but also fairly common to see them really beat up. Some heavy creasing and some heavy paper loss on these. There was recently a seller on eBay that was selling a few graded copies that I would consider them high grade. They were like 2s, 3s, 4s, maybe even a 5 in there, but that would be high grade for these. And I wanted to pick them up, or at least get one of them, but they were just out of my range. But I was able to stumble across these, so I snagged these up. I'd have to look into the drivers to see if they were anybody famous. I don't know the names right offhand, but I do know that there is a Chevrolet card that's in this set that's pretty sought after and pretty tough to get. A little pricey if you can find a nice one. Let's see, next up I have a 1914 Silk of Charlie Chaplin. So if you remember watching in my SGC submission, I mentioned that I do some Charlie Chaplin stuff. And this is a really early Chaplin silk. I don't do a lot with silks. I'm not a huge fan, but that it's this early in his career, I couldn't pass that up. I really wanted to get that. It'll probably come back as authentic because there's typically a little bit more to this here down at the bottom, but I think it's maybe unraveled off of its sticker on the back. But it is blank on the back because it just peels off. Very cool card. Next, I have the 1922 John D. Rockefeller Felix Potin card. This is a tough one to find, but I like getting the Rockefeller cards, especially from whenever he was still alive. They're hard to find, and they're hard to find in good condition. I was happy whenever I came across this, but my background is in oil and gas, and obviously he was the tycoon of oil and gas back in the day. So I wanted to pick that up. Next, I have the 1936 Allen's Flags. This is a really cool card. Great image of the American flag and a baseball player on there. Obviously just a generic player. But this is a pretty tough card to find. This was actually picked up overseas as well. But pretty clean card, nice copy. Really happy to add this. This was one I was looking for a long time, at least in a fair price range. I lost a couple auctions before on this card, but this one actually was at a buy it now at a really good price, so I picked it up. One of my actually only true baseball cards was of Carlos Baerga. This is the 1990 Bowman Tiffany. And this is Baerga's rookie card. So I'm a big fan of Carlos Baerga, and this is one of the things I'm going after this year, is picking up a handful of Baerga cards. I have a few, and I'm not going to go super crazy on it, but I at least want his cards that go to about 1996, because after that, then he goes into a Mets uniform. I'm a big Indians fan, and growing up, Baerga was my guy. So I'm going to start targeting him for a handful of things, and they should be pretty reasonably priced, obviously, since he's not a Hall of Famer or super big name to go after, but I was a big fan. He played second base, and I played second base. So that was good enough for me to like somebody. But this is the Tiffany version. This is a tougher one to get, and so I picked that up. And the last thing that I got, I was able to pick up one more full set of the 1899 Stolwerk painter set with the Leonardo da Vinci card and Michelangelo, Raphael. But super thrilled to add this second set now, because I have another set of this. And if you would have watched my last video, you would have saw that I sent off these two to SGC, which they're still currently there. So this is not the same set. This is a new set of these. But these are awesome cards, and these are tough to get. And you can just watch the price going up on these right now. Anybody that's a non-sports collector is really eyeing this stuff right now. But they're very cool, very cool. But that is all I have for you. I appreciate you sticking around, guys. I'll catch you on the next one.